Hey y'all, it's Bailey with Reclaim Grace. I am so happy you clicked on this video. Today we have 9 or 10 super easy and fun Americana DIYs. I kept these priced between the $7 and $23 because if I can give you a really good tip for booth owners, smalls make the rent. Each month, it is the small purchases that add up to really help you pay that booth rent. So, for holidays like 4th of July, Christmas, Easter, holidays, I like to make some DIYs that stay in that price range that can be just a quick and easy purchase. Help someone decorate simply for the holidays. Y'all let me know what your favorite project is, and let's go ahead and get started. Hey friends, we're going to get started with our red, white, and blue makeovers. First, by cutting up a free, found on the side of the road, spindle bed board. I think this is probably like the footboard. We're using our saw to cut all these beautiful spindles away because we're going to be using those little ones, but I went ahead and cut up the rest of the piece too. We are going to be using some Fusion milk paint. I had that in my stash and didn't feel like opening up another red. We're going to be using navy blue and flour sack. All milk paint. I had never used Fusion's milk paint, and I'm not talking bad about it or anything, but I much prefer Sweet Pickins. Y'all let me know if you've had that same experience. But we're adding our water to our 3 colors. I have already shellacked our spindles with just one quick coat, so they are good and dry now. So now we're going to start painting. I'm going to do 2 coats each. I'm going to do 2 spindles in the blue, 2 in red, and 2 in white. Of course, drying each layer with my heat gun. Once our paint was dry, I did some light distressing, or I don't know, I guess pretty heavy distressing. I really wanted it to be aged looking. I have this twine, and then I grabbed a drill bit that's just a teeny bit bigger than the twine. We're going to drill holes on the bigger side of our spindles to make miniature fireworks. I was inspired to do this project by some of my sweet friends, Reclaimed Treasures and Sycamore Cotton. They really inspired pretty much this whole video over on their Facebook page, watching them create Americana decor. Because really, I don't do much 4th of July DIYs, but this was fun. I could have really kept on and on and on, but we have enough projects in today's video, trust me. So as you can see, I'm just gluing this piece of twine in the drilled hole, getting it down in there good, twisting it so it goes into the hole, and then I'm going to snip it with a pair of scissors. Once I get them up there, I'm going to untwist about 1 inch of the twine so it looks a little frayed at the top. Now let's seal these up. I'm going to use some Sweet Pickins dark oil wax. Always give that container a good shake because it does separate. I'm going to pour it into a little cup, and then I'm going to use a chip brush to just brush it on. Let it sit and marinate for about 10 minutes. Then I will come in with my little blue shop towels and wipe off any excess. Our next step, I wanted to create fabric tags. So I have this piece of muslin from my stash, and I'm going to use the Apothecary Labels IOD stamp. Y'all see me grabbing for this one all the time. It has 4 different styles of letters and some numbers and some really cool symbols. So I'm going to mix up these tags. The first one is going to be established in 1776. Another one is going to be more simple with just USA. And the last one, which is my favorite, I'm going to do bang with a cute little pointing finger. I want these to be frayed, so I am going to just make a little snip in the fabric and then rip them out, and I'm going to keep that upper part a little longer so I can scrunch the fabric together to tie it to my firework. Now we're just going to tie everything together with some jute twine and then tie on our labels we created. I decided to add a wooden star as an embellishment, but first I think I did stain it with a little bit of glaze. But other than that, these are done. Y'all let me know what you think about them. I'm going to price them for $12 a bundle. I think they are super, super cute. Our next one, do not blink or you're going to miss it. It is that simple. I have a vintage yardstick here. I found a whole bunch of these for like $3 for I think like a dozen at a yard sale. Well, we're about to cut this one down. I decided my first cut I wanted to be at 12 inches, and then I'm just going to keep positioning it and figuring out the other two cuts. We are going to be making the number 4 here. So just each cut, put it back together and just kind of eyeball where you need the next cut. And that method worked out very well. Here's how our 4 is looking. Next, we need to glue this 4 together. Of course, I'm going to be using my CA accelerating glue. So I'm just going to add a little bit of that and then hit it with that accelerating spray. I have y'all ask me all the time, is this thin, medium, or thick CA glue? And honestly, it does not say, but it doesn't say on the label, but in my opinion, I feel like it's medium. Next, we are going to take some Scrabble letters. I have these in my stash. I think they came from Dollar General a long time ago. I'm pretty sure you can still buy them there. Of course, finding the Scrabble game is even more fun, but I'm pretty sure these came from the pack at the dollar store. We're just gluing those down with that same CA glue, and then this one is finished. Super, super cute. I think this one might even be my favorite. Y'all let me know what you think. I priced it for $13. Here's another simple one. I have some thrifted candlesticks in red, white, and blue, all from my stash that I've just thrifted over time. I always pick these up at the thrift stores because I make candle bundles with them. Just a decorative candle bundle that you can put in a basket or on top of a book, and these sell very, very well for me. I just tie them together with a little bit of jute twine, add some greenery and some chiffon ribbon, and it is that simple, y'all. I have had customers reach out to me from my retail booth and get me to make these for weddings. They have just been very, very popular. I sell them for $12 a bundle, and that seems to be like a good price point in my opinion. I have about $3 maybe invested in each bundle, plus a little bit of time. But y'all let me know what y'all think about these. I think they are super, super cute, and I know they are going to be quick sellers for $12 a piece. Moving on, here I have a handsaw. It is definitely older, rusty, and crusty. It has been in my workshop a long time. I have like probably 5 or 6 of these. I was going to do Christmas trees with them, but never got around to it. So we're making a red, white, and blue one. I'm going to dust it off well and then give the blade saw part a good sand to kick back some of the high roughness of the rust that's formed on this blade. I'm not going to touch that handle other than give it a good clean. It is perfect the way it is. To seal in that rust, make sure it doesn't bleed back through my next layers. I'm going to put a nice thick coat of some paint on shellac on both sides of our saw. The last thing I want is someone to buy this, hang it on their wall, and the rust rubs up against their white walls and, damages it. So I'm going to go ahead and seal both sides, even though we're only going to be doing the design on the front side. Grab some paints from my stash. I have a all-in-one paint by Fusion Blue, some Marquee by DIY, and some white by Fusion. That's an all-in-one paint. So first we're going to add our first piece of tape. I'm just going to go off the angle of the handle and just go down a couple inches. We're going to tape just one side off, and that is going to be our blue portion. I just really needed to do one coat here since this blue paint was so thick. I dried that down with my heat gun. Now we're going to remove that tape and then just place it back, covering up the blue we just painted. Now we're going to add our white to the rest of the saw. Here I did 2 coats, drying it with my heat gun so I can continue working on. Now that our white's dry, I'm going to start by adding stripes in the horizontal direction now. This took a little bit of playing with to get the thickness, I guess. I used a piece of painter's tape as a spacer, and just the tape was a bit too wide. I wish I had some thinner tape, but I went ahead and did 2 coats of this red, and even though it is a bit thick, I like how it turned out. Once dry, we're going to go ahead and remove the tapes and check out those paint lines. This stencil is literally the only thing I purchased, or well, Mama purchased, to make this video. So I was just super proud of that, working from my stash other than $2.99. And I didn't even pay for that. Thanks, Mama. But I needed some stars and I didn't feel like breaking out my Cricut. So either way, it was almost a free video. I think I can slide for $2.99. But we're just using the white paint. I'm going to dry the stars so I can, shift that stencil around. I'm going to give it a clear coat because we need to seal in that DIY paint. And then now I decided to add a little bit of crackle using my Textures IOD stamp with some black permanent IOD ink. I just love how this one turned out. Y'all let me know what you think. I priced it for $23. It was either 23 or 27. Y'all let me know what y'all think about this project. Our next project is this galvanized tote. I know this thing has probably been in my stash to make over for 2 years, so I am so glad I got some inspiration to make this baby over. I shellacked it well with a couple coats because we're going to be using milk paint. I'm going to mix up some navy blue Sweet Pickins milk paint And I'm sorry, y'all, I am out of this color. Y'all have already sold me out of it. I should have some more on the way in about a week or two, but this is such a pretty navy color. I'm really liking this navy, actually. I think I might put it on a larger piece coming soon. But we're going to do 2 coats. I'm going to be careful and paint around that little handle on this side right here. I want to leave that galvanized, and I'm going to leave the actual handle alone with the wood and the galvanized too. We got some gorgeous crackle on this piece since we dried it with our heat gun in between layers. I just love that. But we're going to be adding our star stencil again on all sides. I'm using Fusion all-in-one white paint, loading my paintbrush up and then offloading on a paper towel. When you're doing stencils, you really need to press that stencil down well and go in a pouncing up and down motion. That seems to work the best for me. Other than that, I just sealed this piece up with some clear wax, and then this piece is done. Y'all let me know what you think about this project. Super simple, but what a transformation. I priced it for $15.95. Y'all let me know what you think. Our next project, we have some wooden spoons. I picked these up if they're cheap. I think Blue Tag this day was 50% off, so I think they were 50 cents a piece, and they are the same length. That is key. We're going to be making a star out of these. I've seen these on Pinterest several years now, and I have been wanting to make one of my own, so I started collecting spoons just for this. But I'm using hot glue. Finding the point of contact is very important, and then letting the hot glue dry before moving on to the next spoon is also important. Once we have everything glued down, I'm going to take some jute twine yet again, and on every joint, we are going to start wrapping this jute twine around them. This is just going to secure it further, plus add a cute detail. I'm going to wrap it in a cross pattern so it looks like an X whenever it's done, and then tie it around the back. Next, I wanted to add a fabric bow. So here I had just some scraps in my stash. It was very hard to find red fabric in my stash, but luckily I did. This is some thin red striped fabric, and then I have some checkered red and white fabric. I had some coffee stained muslin, and then this blue striped fabric. So I'm just going to start laying these out, switching the pieces of fabric in an X motion, and then I will gather them together and take another piece and tie it all together really tight in the back. And then I'm going to glue this down to one of our jute little joint pieces. Then I know you see that USA tag over there on the side. I made some of these to add to all my little projects from today's video. So I'm just going to take a safety pin and hook that to my rag bow. And that's it for this one. Super cute, super easy, and I love how it turned out. I priced it for $13. Our next one, I think this one is a favorite too. We are starting off with a thrifted frame. It's been in my stash for a while. I was actually gonna just paint the frame gold because I kind of like the butterfly, but things changed. We're going to start removing everything. These staples were hell to get out, but they did not win. They did not win. I won. So just prying those out with a tool and then taking my wire snips to dig those out. And then we'll start getting all the artwork and the glass out of this piece. I am going to be reusing that little panel piece of the artwork, and we're going to be adding our new artwork to that. So I just cleaned it up a bit, and here are all the fabrics we're going to be working with. I have this blue and white striped, and I ended up using the red checkered one and some of this muslin. I put back the thin red striped one. But we want this to be raggedy, so we're not going to cut our fabric out. We're going to snip it and rip it. And that is just so satisfying, ripping fabric like this. For the most part, it rips in a straight line, which is pretty cool. So this is going to be our blue square to our fabric flag. So I'm just going to start laying everything out, snipping my fabric down and then ripping it. And then I'm going to use this first piece I rip as a guide to how big I need to rip my other pieces so we can try to make everything the same size. I'm going to be using some spray adhesive to attach this down. Of course, I'm going to do this over my trash can. If you know, you know. I'm going to air dry that a little bit so it becomes tacky. It says to let it dry for a few minutes before attaching things to it. I don't know. But either way, now we're going to start at our bottom and work our way up to the top. Working white, red, all the way to the top. And then the last thing we're going to add is the blue fabric. Next, we're going to cut off that excess fabric, and then for the frame, I'm not painting it because these projects are very simple. I'm just going to distress the white frame a bit with some 220 grit sandpaper just to bring a little bit of character to the frame. And then now we're going to start putting everything back together. My hot glue gun was dead, of course, right when you need it. So I decided to use school glue to attach a paper backing to the back of our frame, and it worked really well. Like, I was surprised how well it worked. I cut off the excess edges, and then I'm just going to tap in this hanging hardware that the frame came with. I love how this one turned out. It's tied of my favorite this video, I think. I priced it for $23. Y'all let me know what you think about this one. Alrighty, on to our next one. I have here the back of a ladder back chair, the rails, I guess you call them. They have just been in my salvage stash for a while, so I figured I would give them a patriotic makeover. We gave them a good clean, a good sand, and now I'm giving them a nice coat of shellac. I'm going to go ahead and do both sides on all three pieces. I want these to be aged and chippy, so I'm going to mix up some flour sack, Sweet Pickins milk paint, let that sit up for about 10 minutes. Then I'm going to take my beeswax bar and I'm going to hit the edges and a little bit of the flat areas on these chair rails. I wanted to make sure I had some chippiness on these pieces. Then we're going to start painting. I did 2 coats on each side to all 3, drying in between each coat with my heat gun. And just look at that crackle. That just makes my heart smile. We're going to be using typesetting as well as the apothecary label stamp to add a little bit of text to these. On our first one, I'm going to do 1776, and I used IOD's blue ink this time, but on my first impression it just didn't seem dark enough for me, so I re-inked my stamps back up and I went back in for a second coat of ink, and that seemed to help a lot. I kind of wish I would have just went with black ink, but I was just trying to do something different. It's fine. I like how it came out either way. I cleaned those up. I did have to go back in and add that second 7, and that looks so cool. We're going to set that to the side. The second one I just did very simple, USA. And then the third one I did Old Glory. Oh, for the second one, I went in with the blue ink and then I cleaned off my stamp, came back in and went in over it with black ink, but I shifted it a little to the left so you could see the blue ink behind the black ink. Just a little bit, like a little shadowing, and I really like how that looked. For the third one, I just used plain black ink. I added some painted stars to the ends of these. I did red, blue, and gold. And then the last step is to add some age. I decided to break out Paint Couture's Antique and Glaze because it's a bit darker than Fusion's. And I'm just going to brush some on in a few areas, and then I will take a baby wipe and spread that all out and wipe any excess off. I went ahead and did the back with this Antique and Glaze as well. And that's it for these. Super simple. I can see them leaned up against a stack of books or in a basket all gathered. I priced them for $7 a piece. Y'all let me know about this salvaged makeover. And alrighty, we are at our last project for today's video. Here I have some wooden spools. This is what my velvet ribbon that I get off Amazon came on, and I used all that up, so I knew I had to save these for a project. They were raw wood, so I decided to add some Fusion agent wax to them just to age it up a bit and deepen that wood tone, and I like it much, much better. I just love that agent wax, y'all. So now let's wrap something around the spool. I'm going to use the leftover little strips I had for my flag makeover, and I'm just going to use some hot glue to get that tacked on, and then we will wrap it around, and I'm going to go ahead and do all 3 spools this way. Now we're going to be adding flags to our spools. The flags I have are made in USA flags, so I think they do have some age to them, but they were just too white for me. So I'm going to mist the flags on both sides with my water mister, and then we're going to take some Fusion Antique and Glaze and just dirty these up a little bit. I'm going to brush that on both sides and then take my blue cloth and wipe off any excess. And then while that glaze is still wet, I'm going to come in with Dixie Belle dirt and just add literally what the name says, some dirt to these flags. Now, my flag was making my spool fall over. It was a little top heavy. So, I'm going to take a little plastic lid and then I'm going to set my spool on top of it and I'm going to fill these up with hot glue, the hole up with hot glue. I'm going to let that sit for a second and harden up just a bit, and then I'm going to stick my flag in the hole. That gave it just the little bit of extra weight it needed to stand straight up. Next, I'm just going to create some cute little labels. I ended up not even using these that I created. I used a different, smaller font because the label needed to just be a bit smaller. But I used some coffee stain muslin here as my tag fabric. See, those are the ones I created. Here are the ones I'm using. I'm just going to bobby pin them on, not bobby pin them. What's the name of these? I crusted safety pins. Yeah, I just gave them a little bit of age, and we're going to use the safety pins right here on the fabric we added. And that's it for these. I love the age of these flags. It just came out so perfect. I think these are super cute. I love the label detail with the rusty, crusty safety pin. Y'all let me know what you think about these. I priced them for $12 a piece. I'm going to throw in some pictures of everything displayed in my booth. I just took this white hutch and I made it my little red, white, and blue corner. I hope you enjoyed these patriotic DIYs using salvage and things that have been in my stash for years. Spending zero money. Cannot beat that. I think they turned out super, super cute, and I just can't get over how easy they were. Y'all let me know which project was your favorite down in the comments. And if you got any inspiration from today's video, hit that like button. Consider subscribing if you have not already. And I appreciate y'all spending your time with me today. I'll talk to you in the comments. Bye.